Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, The DevOps Wife. My name is Naomi, and if you're new here, this channel is all about breaking down complex tech topics into simple, practical lessons, perfect for anyone looking to learn Linux, DevOps, and cloud engineering. I haven't posted a video in a while. Hopefully, I will be more consistent in the next coming weeks. But let's dive right into today's video. If you missed out on the introduction to what DevOps is or some basic Linux commands, do well to go back and watch my last two YouTube videos, and they can give you very incredible insights so that you're not left behind today. But I'll do my best to help you catch up. All right, so today's video is all about exploring two fantastic tools, Multipass and Killercoda. And these platforms are excellent for practicing Linux and web server configurations without needing full access to cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, or GCP. And so in today's video, we would cover the basics of text editors, Nano and Vim, why they are important, how to use them, essential Linux commands like cp and mv for file management, a very, very brief introduction to Linux permissions and how it works, what web servers are, what are their real-life applications, how do you set one up, and also very simple networking concepts. For now, we're just going to focus on what ports are, why they matter, and some very common examples. And by the end of this video, I hope that you'll not only know how to use these tools, but also have a deeper understanding of Linux and its role in DevOps workflows. Now, let's get started. So if you're not already familiar with Multipass, I'm just going to show you very briefly how to install Multipass on your computer. Now, if you go to multipass.run and you click on install, or you can simply go to multipass.run/install, you can see how to download Multipass depending on your operating system. Now, if you do not know what an operating system is, do well to watch my last few videos that explain in depth what an operating system is. Now, you can choose your operating system. Do you use a Linux system? Do you use a Windows system? Do you use a Mac OS? And then you can just pick the one that works for you and then follow the different instructions on how to install them. This is it for Linux and this is it for Mac OS. I already have it installed on my system right here. And this is what the GUI looks like. So if you also do not know what a GUI is, watch my last video. I explained what a GUI is. GUI means graphical user interfaces. It means what we can see and interact with. So the Multipass now has a GUI, at least the latest versions of Multipass. And so you can choose what type of virtual machine that you want to use, or what type of Ubuntu virtual machine. Remember, Multipass only has Ubuntu images, so you can choose what kind of virtual machine you'd like to work with. Is it the Ubuntu 20.04? Is it the Ubuntu 22.04? Is it the Ubuntu 24.04? Depending on which one you like to work with the most, you can choose any one out of these options. So if we maybe choose the 22.04 and we click on the launch command here, this is the easiest way to do it. And so you can see that it's already downloading an image that we can use, and it's downloading the Ubuntu 22.04 LTS. You can also do this with your macOS terminal. Just simply do Multipass launch Jammy, which is the name of the VM, and it will launch an Ubuntu 22.04 LTS VM for you. Now, if you look to the blade by the left, you'd see the catalog, which shows, the different images of Ubuntu that Multipass offers. Then you also have instances. Now, what are instances? It's pretty much the same thing as a VM. So if people, some people use instances, some people use virtual machines, VMs, same thing. Even on the different cloud platforms, on AWS you have instances, on Azure you have virtual machines. They do the same work. It's the same exact thing. It's just that it has different names. So if I click on my instances, I can see the number of instances that I have running, and I can also see there how to start, stop, suspend, delete, whether I want to launch it, etc, etc, etc. So if I click on the first one, this is what it looks like. So this is what it looks like for an Ubuntu machine on Multipass. And I can do anything I want with it. I can PWD, I can CD, I can LS. It works exactly the same way. If you also missed my lecture where I introduced some very basic Linux commands, please watch my previous video. I'll attach a link to it at the end of this video so that you can watch it and catch up with us. All right. So this is one way to practice your Linux skills. The second way is using Killercoda. What is Killercoda? Now, Killercoda is an online platform for interactive tech training. Basically, it provides pre-configured environments for learning Linux, DevOps tools, and so much more. It's ideal for hands-on practice with Linux commands, testing configurations in a very safe sandbox environment, gaining real-world scenarios without needing to download anything. So all of this is accessible over the internet. All you need to do is go to killercoda.com and then click on Playgrounds if you're just getting started with Killercoda or Ubuntu. There are a couple of playgrounds that you can use, but I prefer to use the Ubuntu. So it's a single node Ubuntu environment. So I prefer to use this. You can create an account, log in, and what it does is that it gives you online access to an Ubuntu instance for 60 minutes. If you want more time, you can maybe pay a fee, not sure how much it is, and you can get up to 4 hours. Now, here's why I would pick Multipass over Killercoda. With Multipass, there's no time frame. I can use this for as long as I want, anyhow I want it, anytime I want it. It's always there. It's accessible for me. But on Killercoda, I only have access to it for 60 minutes. But Killercoda is very easy to use. So we would do some exercises on Killercoda. We'll also do some exercises on Multipass, just so that you can see that it's pretty much the same thing. So let's get started. Now, the first thing that I would like to teach today is using text editors. What are text editors? Now, a text editor is a tool that is used for creating and editing files, such as maybe configuration files or code or logs. And they're very crucial in Linux because almost everything is stored in files or plain text. And there are two popular types of text editors that developers or cloud engineers like to use. So we have the Nano text editor. We also have the Vim text editor, or Vi. Now, if you're going to use Nano is very simple and perfect for beginners. So Nano is used to edit a file, right? So we can create a file. If you watched my last video, I talked about how to create a file. So I can touch maybe file 1 and I ls. So if I nano into file 1, there, it's opened a text editor for me to work with, and I can type anything in it. This is a text editor. There are also a bunch of commands that can help me know what to do, how to exit, how to read the file, how to cut, how to paste, different things, right? So I can paste, for example. Command V also works as well. So I can paste anything I'd like in here in my file. Now, how do I exit? So Control X helps to exit, and then it asks me, do you want to save the file? I can either click yes or no, or Control C to cancel. So I want to save it. And then it says, do you want to keep the, like, do you, just like when you open your Microsoft Word and then you want to save, and it's like, oh, do you want to save it as this document, or you want to change the name? You can do that here. So if you just click enter, it just keeps the name as it is, keeps everything as it is, but then you can also rename it here as well. So I'm just going to click enter, and that's it. So if I cut into file one, there, here's everything that I just pasted in my file. Now, the Vi editor works the exact same way, only that it's different. The commands are different. So here's an example. I can Vi into file one, and there I have the same file, but then it's a different text editor. Now, how do I use Vi? Now, if you're just working with Vi and you just start typing, it doesn't work. Just pressing keyboards, the keys on your keyboard, it doesn't work. You have to first of all press the I button on your keyboard, and that means to insert. It means we're ready to edit this file. So if I maybe scroll down to any page, I can say here maybe I want to edit this. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Naomi. Stuff like that. I can edit the way I'd like. So what happens next? The commands are not there, just like you have in Nano. So what happens next? What do I do next? So the first thing you want to do is press the escape key when you're done, and then you press the colon key. So pressing the colon key means it has entered, it's waiting for you to give it commands to run. Now, if you want to save this file, you press the W. W in Vi is save. Please, if you need to note that down somewhere, please do that. Very important. W means save. Q means quit without saving. W means save without quitting. But if you put those two together, it means quit and save. And then you have the colon to execute. And it has saved it. So I can cut my file one. And I can see my new changes, which is welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Naomi. Those are my new changes, right? Now, something very important to note when working with file editors is that there are different ways to create a file, but they are sort of only there are limited options when it comes to editing files. So the touch command, if you remember from the last video, right, and we've used it earlier today, speaks to creating files, but it does not edit them. For example, touch file 2. It doesn't edit the file, but if we ls, the file is there. So what is the difference? You can also Nano and Vi a file that is not there. So what does that mean? It means that you can create a file and edit it. It means that if you type the Nano file, the Nano command or the Vi command, and the file does not exist, it will create a new file and edit it as well. So let's try it. Vi file 3. See what I mean? It created a file called file 3, and it's also saying we can edit the file. It opened a text editor for us to edit the file, right? So let's quit. Now, bear in mind that if you're creating a file, it's case sensitive, because if you do touch file 4, it will create two different files for you. So it will create a file called file and create another file called 4. Now let's test this out. So if we press enter and we ls, so you can see it created a file called 4, created another file called file, and then you have your file 1, you have your file 2. All right, now because we did not save file 3, we only exited, it did not save it, so that's why file 3 is not there. But if we do vi file 3 and then we save wq and we ls, there, file 3 is there because we saved it. If you have any questions, you can always drop it in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer. All right, so that's it about file editors. Now, one very important command to note, or a bunch of commands to note, is the cp and the mv command. Now, file management is actually a very core Linux skill, whether you're copying files or you're renaming files. These commands are indispensable. You cannot do without them. So let's see very quick use cases for cp and mv. Now, the cp command is used to copy files. You can copy files and folders with the cp command, but for today we're going to focus on just copying files. Now, we only have text in file 1, right? If you remember, we have been editing file 1. But let's say we want to copy this to file 2. So what do we do? So it's cp file 1, copy file 1 to file 2, and we press enter. Now, if we cut file 2, it has copied everything you have in file 1 into file 2. Easy, right? The mv command sort of works in two different ways. You can move a file from one folder, from one directory to another directory, or you can use it to rename a file. Now let me show you what I mean. Now if we ls again, okay, let's clear and let's ls. If we ls again, you'd see that we have 5 files here. But let's say we want to rename file 2 to something else so that we can distinguish it from file 1, right? So what do we do? So we're saying move file 2, and then what's the new name you want to give it? Maybe file 4. Let's ls now. What do you notice? There's no file 2 anymore, but we have file 4. So what does that mean? It means that we simply renamed file 2 to file 4. Now, very simple commands, right? But very important to learn. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk a bit about Linux permissions, just very briefly. Linux permissions define who can read, write, or execute a file directory. And if you want to view the permissions that a file has, you can type the ls-al command or the ls-l command. Simply tells you who has access. Now, R means read, W means write, and then there's also X, which means execute, but we don't have any file here that has any execute function. We can add it, however, but maybe we'll talk about it in our next video. But for now, let's just focus on Linux permissions. The read file, if a file only has read access, it means that only you can edit the file. If it has read and write access, it means you can edit the file. And if it has the X, which is the execute letter, it means you can read it. You can execute whatever it is that is on the file, right? So there are 3 groups, but we won't go much into details now. So let's just, as long as we have that simple introduction at the back of our minds, we're good for now, right? And what happens if you have access or you don't have access to a file? You can simply use the sudo command. As long as you are root, you're running the command as root. If you have sudo access, so sudo is like the super user access. It means this user is the owner. This user can do anything, deletes, add, move files, copy files. It can do anything. It's like a super user, right? Sudo is like it's the super user for Linux. And so if you notice that you don't have access to any file, you can try putting the sudo command in front of the file name and see if you finally have access to that file. Now this is important, especially because we're going to be working with Apache. So let's move on to actually setting up a web server with Apache. And for this, we're going to use Killercoda. All right, now we're in Killercoda. But before we dive right into installing Apache here, what is a web server? A web server is a software that delivers web pages or files to clients over the internet or a local network. So you can use web servers to host websites. You can use it to run APIs. You can use it to serve files for applications. So how exactly can we set up an Apache server on Ubuntu? Now, let's first of all update the system. Since this is a new system, let's update it. So we'll do sudo apt update. So sudo apt update helps to update the system, especially if it's new, if there are any bugs that have been fixed. It will help to fix all of those bugs. So sudo apt update, very important thing to run, especially if you have you're working with a new Ubuntu system. Now, how do you install packages on Ubuntu? Very simple. Sudo apt install. I can sudo apt install any package on Ubuntu just using this command. I can sudo apt install git. I can sudo apt install nginx. I can sudo apt install not docker. The docker has a different command for that. But if I want to install packages, sudo apt install python. Sudo apt install is the command for that. But today I want to install Apache 2. So I'm going to sudo apt install Apache 2. -y. And what it's doing is that it's installing Apache on my Linux system. All right, so we're just going to wait for it to finish installing and then we can work with it. Now, how do we create web pages with Apache? Now, every web page or web directory has a file that they work with, index.html. But how do we find this index.html? Now, if you're familiar with HTML, this should be pretty easy for you. But if you're not, I can attach a link to a very short course that you can take to get familiar with what HTML is and how to use it. But for now, we can find the index.html file, which we need to edit in order to access our Apache page. Here, let's clear this first. cd, so we're going to cd or change our directory into /var/www/html. Now, if you print our current working directory, we can see that we are in the /var/www/html directory. And what do we find in this directory? Index.html. Now, this is the file that we need to work with, right? So if you cat this index.html, you definitely see that there is a web page which you can access. You can edit this if you'd like, but here's how we can access it. So if I click on the three dots here, the burger icon rather here, and I click on traffic and ports, it's going to take me to another page. My Apache web server over the internet. Now this brings us to the last thing we want to talk about, which is ports. So what is a port? A port is a virtual communication endpoint for applications to send and receive data. And now there are very common ports. There's port 22, there's port 80, there's port 443, there's port 3389. Now, we use port 80 mostly when we want to access something over the internet. Now, if you're using a virtual machine in the cloud, you need to access it not over port 80, but over port 22 for secure shell, for Linux web servers. If you're using a Windows server, you need to access that virtual machine over port 3389, which is the remote desktop protocol for Windows. But since this is not on the cloud, we want to access this over the internet. So we're going to use port 80. And let's access. This is our Apache web server. We can actually replace this, right, with what we want. Now let me show you what I mean. So if I go back to my playground and I cd into /var/www/html and I ls my index.html. Now let's remove this. So sudo rm -rf index.html. Now let's create another one. So let's sudo vi index.html. It's created a brand new index.html file for us to work with, right? Because if you do this, you can see there's nothing in it. We've deleted it. So this one is new. There's nothing in it. We can put anything we want in it, right? So if we paste I just got this simple HTML file over maybe ChatGPT. So maybe we can edit this and just say maybe welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Naomi. So I'm just going to add that line there. My name is Naomi. All right. So I'm going to save. Remember, escape :WQ exclamation mark. And we're good to go. Now we've saved it. So let's refresh. There you go. Now it's changed. I have something else. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Naomi. Blah, blah, blah. Right? So this is how to create a very simple landing page or a simple web server on an Ubuntu machine. I'd like you to try this on your own. And if you have any issues, please feel free to use the comment section to let me know what your issues are and we can try to figure it out together. All right, so today we have explored text editors and their importance, Linux commands like cp and mv, a very brief introduction about Linux permissions and their significance, web servers and how to set up Apache, ports and their role in networking. And so if this video has helped you, like and subscribe to the DevOps Wife channel. You can also drop your questions, or if you'd like me to treat another topic entirely, you can also let me know topic suggestions in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.